In a shocking turn of events, Diddy's world has been turned upside down. The once mighty mogul is facing financial ruin, and his reputation is in tatters. We're talking about a guy who was once the second richest person in hip-hop, with a net worth of over $1 billion, working with more than a dozen brands, and rubbing shoulders with billionaires like Jay-Z and Mark Cuban. But what happened? Why did Diddy's empire crumble so suddenly? It all started when he made some questionable business decisions. In 2007, Diddy struck a deal with liquor giant Diageo to promote Ciroc vodka, which made him over $400 million. However, allegedly, Diddy wanted to cut Diageo out of the deal and take over Ciroc, but that's when Diego cut him off completely. Months later, Diddy is being sued, and his financial woes are getting worse by the day. His net worth has plummeted from $1 billion to just $300 million, and he's lost a whopping $550 million on spirits alone. Not to mention, his cash reserves have dwindled, and many of his business ventures are bleeding money. But here's the kicker. Diddy thought his powerful friends would protect him from the consequences of his actions. Back in 2007, Mayor Eric Adams even gave Diddy the key to the city, literally weeks before his trial. However, it turns out that Diddy never had any real friends. The mayor was arrested for corruption just weeks after Diddy's arrest. So, what happened during that time when you think about his network? Was all of it just a coincidence? Or did Diddy's actions catch up with him? Let's dive deeper into the world of Diddy and uncover the shocking truth. As we explore the rise and fall of Diddy's empire, we'll examine how he built his business from scratch and became one of the most influential figures in hip-hop. We'll also look at how his financial woes have caught up with him and what this means for his future. We'll talk to industry experts and insiders who have worked closely with Diddy, giving us a glimpse into the inner workings of his business. They'll share their thoughts on why Diddy's empire crumbled so quickly and whether he can recover from this financial disaster. From the highs of being the richest person in hip-hop to the lows of facing financial ruin, we'll explore it all. So, buckle up and get ready for a wild ride as we uncover the shocking truth about Diddy's rise and fall. The rise of Diddy was once known as the bad boy of entertainment, but his empire crumbled so suddenly that many are left wondering what happened. Let's take a closer look at how he built his business from scratch. In 2007, Diddy struck a deal with liquor giant Diageo to promote Ciroc vodka, which made him over $400 million. This deal was the key to his success and catapulted him into becoming one of the richest people in hip-hop. However, allegedly, Diddy wanted to cut Diego out of the deal and take over Ciroc, but that's when Diego cut him off completely. Diddy's business ventures were booming, with more than a dozen brands working under him. He was rubbing shoulders with billionaires like Jay-Z and Mark Cuban, and his net worth was skyrocketing. But beneath the surface,
Diddy's sons leaving the courthouse after day 5 of trial.
Big check, big check. Keep your head up, man. Keep your head up.
All right. Looking sharp. Looking sharp. Looking real sharp. All right.
things were not as rosy as they seemed. The fall of Diddy. As we explore the financial woes of Diddy's empire, it becomes clear that something went terribly wrong. His net worth has plummeted from $1 billion to just $300 million, and he's lost a whopping $550 million on spirits alone. Not to mention, his cash reserves have dwindled, and many of his business ventures are bleeding money. Diddy thought his powerful friends would protect him from the consequences of his actions. Back in 2007, Mayor Eric Adams even gave Diddy the key to the city, literally weeks before his trial. However, it turns out that Diddy never had any real friends. The mayor was arrested for corruption just weeks after Diddy's arrest. So, what happened during that time when you think about his network? Was all of it just a coincidence? Or did Diddy's actions catch up with him? The FBI takes action as the financial woes of Diddy's empire continue to mount. The FBI has stepped in and seized many of his assets. This includes his planes, which were involved in the transportation of traffic minors. Those planes, worth tens of millions of dollars, are now in the custody of the FBI. Diddy's career in hip-hop is over, and he's running out of time and money. Insiders say the legal fees alone are draining his accounts, and with the FBI seizing his assets, Diddy doesn't even have control over his own bank accounts anymore. The verdict in conclusion, it's clear that Diddy's empire crumbled due to a combination of questionable business decisions and his own actions catching up with him. His financial woes are getting worse by the day, and his reputation is in tatters. But what does this mean for Diddy's future? Can he recover from this financial disaster and rebuild his empire? Or has his time as the bad boy of entertainment come to an end? As we wrap up our exploration of Diddy's rise and fall, one thing is clear. Only time will tell if he can bounce back from this shocking turn of events. Diddy's legal woes are taking a toll on his finances and reputation. But what happens when you're no longer the bad boy of entertainment? As we explore Diddy's rise and fall, one thing becomes clear. His empire crumbled due to questionable business decisions and actions that caught up with him. In recent times, insiders claim Diddy is running out of time and money. The FBI has seized his assets, leaving him without control over his bank accounts. This situation raises more questions about Diddy's future. Can he recover from this financial disaster? Or has his time as the bad boy of entertainment come to an end? The latest news suggests that Diddy is in for a big case ahead of him. They also have a lot of those civil trials. In fact, he just had a big year this year. His $60 million private jet has already been sold, and so are his mansions from LA to Miami and the Hamptons. $1 million jewelry collection, and over $20 million in top-of-the-line art, including works by Andy Warhol. That's just a short list of Diddy's physical wealth. But now, with his legal nightmare getting even more frightening, Diddy put his Beverly Hills mansion on the market.
Now, was he grounded there trying to leave somewhere else? Who knows? Was he trying to get out of there? We don't know. This is the last seen footage of Diddy pacing around Miami Airport. And again, this is that a walk of, your walls are closing around you.
For $61 million? This move might seem drastic, but it's a desperate attempt to protect what's left of his assets. The 54-year-old faces over 24 current cases alleging sexual racketeering. Diddy vehemently denied all charges and accusations against him. The Justice Department has filed a forfeit action that could cost him his empire. Prosecutors allege the empire was built at least in part through a pattern of criminal activities, including alleged sex trafficking, drug distribution, and violence, all used to advance what they call a racketeering enterprise. In the unsealed indictment, prosecutors outline how his business and personal assets allegedly played a role in carrying out or concealing the crimes. This means any assets connected to the behavior, even indirectly, could be seized, including real estate, companies, vehicles, and aircrafts. Diddy's $60 million private jet has reportedly already been sold, and the Beverly Hills estate is currently on the market for $61 million. While Combs still owns his $48 million Miami mansion, a judge denied his request to use it as collateral for bond. No one knows exactly how much of Diddy's fortune is going to be seized by the FBI, but one thing's for certain. Diddy won't have much left once they're done with him. He's already lost over $600 million, and he hasn't even been sentenced yet. By the time Diddy gets back out, there will be nothing left. No brand wants to work with Diddy, and all of his celebrity friends have abandoned him. In an effort to protect what's left of his assets, Combs hired Stephen Casella, former deputy chief of the Justice Department's Asset Forfeit and Money Laundering Section, to fight the forfeit action. If the jury finds Combs guilty, it will be up to them to determine how much of Diddy's assets are subject to forfeit. Anything forfeited after a conviction could be used to support alleged victims. Sean Combs denies all allegations. To help us break down what's at stake, I'm joined by Jim Trusty, former chief of the Department of Justice Organized Crime and Gang Section. Let's start with the forfeit. This isn't just about prison time anymore. Prosecutors want his empire. From what you've seen in the filings, how aggressive is this? Well, it looks to be very aggressive, and there are a couple of reasons I say that. The first is it's very broadly worded. They're talking about essentially any property, real or personal, that could constitute either facilitating property or instrumentalities, as they call it, or proceeds. And so that's kind of the whole business empire of PD being at risk. So that's the second part, which is it's a RICO case, a criminal enterprise case, where they've defined the organization, the criminal enterprise, as not just Sean Combs, but as all these business interests that he has, including liquor labels, music labels, You know, everything else you can think of. So they've set it up in a way where when they get to a forfeit phase, if there's a conviction, the sky's the limit, and it looks like they're going to try to take a piece out of him everywhere he's ever touched. According to one insider, Diddy's legal fees are piling up too.
Do they have of these people where they're willing to defend him and they're willing to keep quiet about all this? Like how many people were compromised?
Ex-federal prosecutor Nima Romani, founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers, said, "I expect Diddy to spend 8 figures or more than $10 million on defense fees when it's all said and done." Top-tier criminal defense attorneys in complex federal cases charge retainers of $1 million or more. Diddy has a small army of lawyers working on his case. That's expected when his net worth is reportedly $1 billion and his life is on the line. And here's what people don't realize. Diddy's not just burning money on defense. His income sources are collapsing one by one, if not already collapsed. SRA's parent company, Dejo, dropped him quietly. No fanfare, no public fight, just a quiet, chilling severance. Revolt TV is bleeding viewers and advertisers amid backlash over Diddy's involvement. Staff are quitting. Execs are jumping ship. He already sold a stake in it, but now that's dying. Sean John is a ghost brand, barely sold in department stores, relying on licensing deals that are now being reevaluated. That's just the beginning of the consequences of Diddy's actions. The future looks bleak for the once-famed bad boy of entertainment. But what about the recent news that Diddy enrolled in a rehabilitation program? Is this really a genuine attempt to change, or is it just damage control? Let's get some expert insight on this situation. Gene D, happy to have you back on the platform, man. October 3rd, we're going to find out if Diddy does time or not. But I do want to ask you, how do you feel about this program that he enrolled into? Well, the programs they put him in is because of he's getting close to release, or he may be released. So, the Bureau of Prisons for the federal government has to give him programs based on his crime that he committed. You know what I'm saying? He did commit a crime. He is going to jail for committing a crime, but the time is going to be based on his pre-sentence report. So now in the pre-sentence report that the probation art officer, the federal probation officer do, they go by the history. If he had any criminal history, they go by the history, the crime. They go by what the victim statements and all that. And they do this report that they submit to the judge. And submitting that report to the judge is going to have what they believe based on the guidelines of the prison system. The guidelines of the correctional sets up based on what the time he'll do. It's a delicate balance between Diddy's actions and his future. Will he be able to turn things around? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this isn't over yet. New info about Diddy completely changes everything you know what I'm saying. He did commit a crime. He is going to jail for committing a crime, but the time is going to be based on his pre-sentence report. So now in the pre-sentence report that the probation art officer, the federal probation officer do, they go by the history. If he had any criminal history, they go by the history, the crime. They go by what the victim statements and all that. And they do this report that they submit to the judge. And submitting that report to the judge is going to have what they believe based on...
Not only that, how about the fact that this guy was running this for decades? He was doing this for decades. Who knows?
The guidelines of the prison system. The guidelines of the correctional sets up based on what the time he'll do. This process seems straightforward enough. However, we're dealing with a complex situation here. Diddy's crime was serious, and the consequences will be severe. But let's look at some new information that has come to light recently. Based on the crime, the pre-sentence report suggests that Diddy could face anywhere from 22 to 54 months in prison. Now, it seems like a pretty straightforward calculation, but there's more to consider here. You see, the federal probation officer will not only look at Diddy's criminal history, but also at his victim statements and other factors that might influence the sentence. They'll create a report that they submit to the judge, outlining their recommendations based on the guidelines of the prison system. It's a delicate balance between punishment and rehabilitation. But here's where things get interesting. The government has now filed for Diddy's bail to be denied until he is sentenced. His lawyers have offered a $50 million bond package backed by his Miami mansion, passport surrender, restricted travel, no phone or internet access, and home detention under private security. It seems like they're trying everything in their power to get him out. However, Cassie Ventura's lawyer has already submitted a public plea to the court asking them to deny Diddy's bail. She fears for her life if he gets out, and who can blame her? After all, Deontay Nash, Cassie's longtime friend and former stylist, testified against Diddy in his trial. He shared stories of multiple instances of violence that both he and Cassie endured at Diddy's hands. Now, it seems like Freddie P is also weighing in on the situation. He's warning Cassie to leave the country before it's too late. According to him, people close to Diddy are already plotting retaliation. If Diddy can't get to her directly, he'll come after those she loves, her family, friends, and inner circle. Cassie's lawyer is understandably concerned about her client's safety. She's urging Cassie to take action now, not just for herself, but also for the people who care about her. The situation is dire, and everyone involved is trying to stay one step ahead of Diddy's plans. But here's a question. Will Diddy get off scot-free? Is he protected by those in power? We've seen some disturbing evidence suggesting that he may have connections with the law enforcement community. KPD has been accused of being an informant for years, and there are whispers about Puffy being involved in Tupac's murder. If that's true, it raises a lot of questions. Is Diddy at a level where he's untouchable? Or is he just another pawn in a larger game? We'll explore this further as we delve into the complexities of Diddy's situation. Meanwhile, his friends have vanished, and his brands have bailed on him. All that's left are broken lives and unanswered questions. It seems like Diddy is trying to rewrite his story before the final chapter is written. But can he succeed? It's a script we've seen many times before. Desperate attempts at redemption after years of manipulation and exploitation. We'll examine this
Thing was like an Epstein-type compromise deal, where he had, whether he was doing
further as we explore the details of Diddy's case. One thing's for sure, this isn't over yet. The battle for justice continues, with many stakeholders fighting for their piece of the pie. But what does it all mean? Will Diddy walk free, or will he finally face the music? We'll examine the intricacies of his situation, exploring themes like accountability and power dynamics in the entertainment industry. We'll ask the hard questions and challenge our assumptions as we navigate this complex web of relationships. But before we dive deeper, let's take a closer look at Diddy's pre-sentence report. What does it say about his chances? Will he get the leniency, or will he face harsher penalties? As experts continue to weigh in on the situation, one thing becomes clear. New info about Diddy completely changes everything. The pre-sentence report outlines a range of factors that influence the sentence, including Diddy's history with law enforcement and his connections within the community. However, there are also concerns about his behavior since being arrested. The multiple bail attempts and desperate pleas for mercy all raise questions about his true intentions. Some experts argue that Diddy can still have a life outside prison if he leans into what has come out of this situation and uses it as branding material. Others warn that you don't get to rebrand trauma as personal growth, especially when there's evidence of decades-long manipulation and exploitation. The question on everyone's mind now is, will Diddy walk free or face the consequences? We'll explore these questions and more in the following sections. As we move forward, one thing becomes clear. New info about Diddy completely changes everything. As we dive deeper into the situation surrounding Diddy, it becomes clear that the pre-sentence report is not just a document, but a key player in determining his fate. This report outlines a range of factors that influence the sentence, including Diddy's history with law enforcement and his connections within the community. But what does this mean for him? How will these factors impact his life outside of prison? Let's break down each aspect. His history with law enforcement is marked by multiple run-ins, from minor infractions to more serious charges. This isn't just about being unlucky. It speaks to a deeper issue, the way Diddy interacts with authority figures and how that has evolved over time. His connections within the community are a mixed bag as well. On one hand, he's managed to build relationships and gain popularity through his music and philanthropy. However, there are also concerns about his manipulation of these relationships for personal gain. But here's the thing. Diddy isn't just some generic celebrity getting in trouble with the law. He's a master builder who has carefully constructed an image that is both enviable and mysterious. His behavior since being arrested raises more questions than answers, from multiple bail attempts to desperate pleas for mercy. This could be seen as a genuine attempt to turn his life around or a well-calculated move to save face. We've all heard the phrase, branding material, but Diddy takes it to a whole new level. He's made a career out of being the ultimate renaissance.
I'm sure if you go to Diddy's house, it probably feels real weird. Probably feels weird walking around that house. Probably like
Man, musician, entrepreneur, philanthropist. But does that mean he gets to use this latest scandal as an opportunity for personal growth? Or is it just another step in his carefully crafted image? Some experts argue that Diddy can still have a life outside prison if he leans into what has come out of the situation and uses it as branding material. They point to the way he's been able to transform his mistakes into opportunities, how he's managed to stay relevant despite controversy after controversy. But others warn that you don't get to rebrand trauma as personal growth, especially when there's evidence of decades-long manipulation and exploitation. Let's take a closer look at Diddy's behavior since being arrested. We see him attempting bail multiple times, using his charm and charisma to win over the public and maybe even sway some influential figures in his favor. But what lies beneath this facade? Is he genuinely trying to turn his life around, or is it just another calculated move? One of the most striking aspects of Diddy's situation is how it reflects on our societal values. We live in a world where fame and fortune can often override accountability, where celebrities are held to a different standard than regular folks. But what happens when this bubble bursts? When the facade cracks, revealing a messy reality that's hard to ignore? As we navigate these questions and concerns, it becomes clear that Diddy's situation is far from black and white. There are no easy answers or solutions. Instead, there's a complex web of factors influencing his fate. It's up to us, the public, the experts, and even Diddy himself, to unravel this tangled mess and find some semblance of truth. In the following sections, we'll delve deeper into each aspect of Diddy's situation, exploring what it means for him, for those around him, and for our society as a whole. We'll examine his history with law enforcement, his connections within the community, and how he's managed to build an image that is both enviable and mysterious. We'll also look at the concerns about his manipulation of relationships for personal gain and whether it's possible for him to genuinely change course or if this is just another calculated move. As we do so, we'll ask some tough questions. Can you rebrand trauma as personal growth? Is Diddy's latest scandal an opportunity for redemption or just another step in his carefully crafted image? And finally, we'll explore the broader implications of Diddy's situation on our societal values and how it reflects on our attitudes towards accountability and justice. By examining each aspect, we hope to gain a deeper understanding of this complex web of factors influencing Diddy's fate. The question remains, will Diddy walk free or face the consequences? As we move forward, one thing becomes clear. New info about Diddy completely changes everything. But before we dive deeper, let's take a closer look at Diddy's pre-sentence report. What does it say about his chances? Will he get the leniency, or will he face harsher penalties? As experts continue to weigh in on the situation, one thing becomes clear. New info about Diddy completely changes everything.
Moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild. It was,
So
it was
nobody
crazy.
tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say
and,
that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 in the morning with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And what do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem. I had like,
What
like
a
a living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Diddy told her he was going to kill Biggie. She knew it was gonna happen. She was purposefully not by her husband's side that night. It happened, and she was told she had to lie about it. And guess what? That lie held up until that boy turned 18. And he started having ideas of what he wanted to do with what he inherited. Because the paperwork was set up for Faith to not be able to receive $1 from Biggie's estate unless it was for little Christopher. And she only had one child with Christopher. The other children who required taking care of and feeding and all of them couldn't be fed off of Christopher Wallace's money. They weren't his kids. See how that works?
Right.